I just wanted to make sure that you listeners are listening to the Drapedomaniac podcast on doayamedia.com. You are, right?
Peace, family, and welcome to this edition of the Drapedomaniac podcast. This is Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC, that is the head Drapedomaniac in charge, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Angela.
I'm also in charge.
Yes, she is. And we are here to have conversations on how to get off this plantation. But I'm the HDIC. That's the head Drapedomaniac in charge, as you all know. Anyway, today we're going to talk about entertainment, and in particular, movies, television shows, or well, we call them television shows, but I don't know that we even watch television anymore.
Oh yeah, that's true. But series, a lot of my people talk about series a lot. So yeah, series.
Right. I didn't really stop to think about it. As far as antenna television or cable television, we don't really watch that anymore. Might watch it. I might watch something every now and then on Core TV, but other than that, we don't watch. But, excuse me. But what we're going to talk about is just like the things that we watch, things that our people, as far as I know, watch, and moreover, what effect it has on us who are watching. In other words, are we being propagandized, which is yes, but are we being propagandized or influenced by what we're looking at, even if it seems that it might be benign? And also, if we're watching things from other countries, like Nollywood, or watching K-dramas or anything like that, what are some of the differences as opposed to like this European television or Americanized television? So that's the introduction. Angela, what you got?
I guess I would kind of like to, when I think about this subject, I think about myself as a young person and how much television I consumed. I don't remember myself being a big movie watcher as a child. I like to read, and I like to I like to watch television. I shouldn't say I just watched it, but like I really enjoyed watching television. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I just want to. And the reason that I'm thinking about that is because it's probably been 6 or 8 months when we had the grandbaby over here, mm-hmm. and it was just like almost from the moment she woke up till the moment she went to bed, she is just to me. That's not literally, but I just have this image of her just staring at the television, staring at a screen. Mm-hmm. She would use a tablet or whatever, but a lot of times even on the tablet she was looking at videos. Sometimes she'd be playing a game, but she would be looking at videos, and just her eyes big and just staring, like just everything being absorbed and soaked in. Mm-hmm. And it kind of disturbed me. It's kind of been like a haunting image. Mm-hmm. Just in terms of like, well, what is she absorbing? How is her brain processing that? So when I think about myself as a child, I was like sitcoms. So I watched the one with Tootie, Facts of Life. Mm-hmm. I watched The Brady Bunch. I watched I feel like I would watch anything. Mm-hmm. But I liked The Jeffersons. I liked Facts of Life. I'm sure there are shows that I liked.
Right, I get it. I was
Good Times.
I was one of those that I always like to watch television and movies and stuff, and you know me, I'll sit and start telling you about what the characters' actual names were and who played them, and then
did you watch a lot of movies as a child?
I
on television.
As I got older, I did. A lot of the stuff my mother wouldn't let me watch because it was quote unquote more adult themed. But as I got older, I started watching a bigger variety.
When
but
I was a
mostly
child,
TV shows.
Oh yeah,
series.
when I was a child, there would be movies on TV, but it seemed like but we didn't have access to movies in the same way that we do now.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
So I had way more access to TV than
I remember very distincly the first time I saw Carrie, and it was
the movie Carrie.
And it was on television. Mm-hmm. And I watched it, and I thought it was pretty good. I was like, "Oh, this is," it was rough, and then HBO came along, and and I got to see it unedited, and it was just night and day.
Really?
To me, yeah. With even a movie like Nighthawks with Sylvester Stallone, and Billy D. Williams.
I never even heard of that movie.
That was the first time that I had heard these streams of profanity in a movie. It was the first time. I was like, "What? People talk like this on movies?"
Oh, Samil, Slamaco,
Laverne and Shirley.
I used to watch Laverne and Shirley. The reason I came to that is because you were talking about these streams of profanity.
Right.
And I was thinking about how I Love Lucy, they had two separate beds.
Right.
The husband and wife didn't sleep in the same bed.
Right.
But you know how some things were not really portrayed on on network television.
Right.
Like there wasn't a lot of profanity, nudity, Okay, so I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. But in watching all that, I did grow up with certain perceptions about relationships and just the way that things worked in the world. Mm-hmm. And I was like any other person, and just brainwashed by this whole thing of, just this whole white people being pure as the driven snow, and especially when you watch stuff like Wagon Train or the older ones.
Never saw it. I don't think I ever saw Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, the Rifleman, Leave It to Beaver. But you just get this impression that white people were the salt of the earth, and they were all about their principles and da-da-da-da.
Little House on the Prairie. I used to like to watch that.
The Little House on the Prairie, and it just has these salt of the earth white people. And then as I got older, I was like, yeah, they're not the salt of the earth.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Little House on the Prairie in terms of the way that people were characterized, because we've been talking a little bit about, settler colonialism or I don't even know. I feel like that term is too gentle for what it is.
Right.
But I was just thinking, well, and I didn't do any research, but I'm like, Little House on the Prairie, they seem, like you say, so sweet, so innocent,
right.
Such good people, so kind, and like they were just trying to live their life and survive in this harsh environment. But I would love to hear, I'm really curious if I could juxtapose that with what was actually going on in history, particularly
right.
with Native folks and Black folks at that time, and like that was being portrayed in that way.
Right, exactly. And like the main families, whether it's a show like Little House on the Prairie or The Big Valley, where they may have a black character on there.
Big Valley.
The Big Valley was one of my favorite westerns, but
you said your mom liked to watch westerns a lot.
But Yaphet Kotto was on there on this one episode.
I don't know who that is.
And Yaphet Kotto, he's an actor that just died. Black actor just died recently.
Would I know him from something else?
Alien, the first Alien movie. Only black one on the crew. Oh, okay, well, that's it. He was in this James Bond movie.
Okay.
And so on. He was the bad guy. But anyway, all this here and there. Even when black people were
that's actually kind of here or there. He was the bad guy.
Well, I'm not talking about that. I mean, like, as far as who he is.
Oh.
He was a black character on the shows. And those shows are always presented as everybody else on the show may be bigots or racist or whatever, but the main family, like the Ingalls family on Little House on the Prairie, or the Cartwrights on Bonanza, or the Barclays on the Big Valley, they would always be the ones who were like colorblind, and they're the ones who were standing up for the black people and so on. And it was just all propaganda.
Yeah. Archie Bunker was not colorblind, but there were people in his family. What was that show? Was the show
All
called
in the
Archie?
Family.
All in the Family. Uh-huh. There were people in his family who were, colorblind. And Archie Bunker was supposed to be like an all opportunity bigot.
Right.
Because his son was his daughter married a Polish. Was he Polish?
Yeah, Polish. Yeah.
And he would always make jokes
Michael
about
Stivic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would always make, he was kind of offensive toward him.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. As I grew up watching that stuff, and just like we're brainwashed to be taught that we're the lowest on the totem pole, we're the worst that there is, thieves. Because I remember when I'm growing up, and then the blaxploitation movies started coming out, and it was just, they were just like filled with stereotypes. There were some that I think were made by our own people.
Mm-hmm. The Man and Son.
Mario Van Peebles and
Melvin Van
Peebles.
Peebles. I've never seen a blaxploitation film, even to this day.
Oh, really? You've never seen a Pam Grier movie?
I've never seen a Pam Grier movie.
Oh, wow.
I never saw The Godfather. It's a lot of stuff that are. I just saw, but anyway, not Boys in the Hood, but it's another black one that.
Is it a Spike Lee joint?
No, I saw all of Spike Lee's films, but it's some other black movie, not Boys in the Hood, that a lot of people refer to. Was Nico in it? The one where he takes over the. But I hadn't seen that for a long time.
Oh, that was New Jack City.
New Jack City, I hadn't seen that for a long time.
Brown?
Nino Brown, yeah. But anyway. And I've only seen The Color Purple once, because people will reference certain things because they've seen it multiple times, and it's like, but I've only now I think I've seen The Color Purple twice, but I had only seen it once until about 5 years ago.
Yeah, I've seen The Color Purple 3 times, and that was 4 times too many. Anyway. but it's I'm going to loop back to the very beginning of what we were talking about as far as looking at screens, and our granddaughter looking at screens and stuff, and just the fact that when we take our walk in the evenings, it's just this way of getting away from being in front of a screen, because it's not just the television, it's the cell phone, the tablet, and so on, just always sitting in front of a screen. Mm-hmm. And when you have the opportunity to get out and take a walk and see the trees and, nature or whatever.
When you create an opportunity.
Right. I don't like seeing, you already know, I don't like seeing a lot of buildings, structures, but, it can't be helped sometimes. But there's something to be said for people just walking, being in the sun, or the sun setting, and feeling the breeze on you and smelling the grass and so on.
Or with the baby, I would try to interact with her. I would try to read with her, like just having like a different type of
stimulation and input
and interaction, and
right.
And it would be like a bargain. It was a fight with her.
Yeah, and not only that, but when you're trying to interact with a child, and specifically talking about a granddaughter, but in general, any child, it's like if you're like the parent or the grandparent or a friend or what, you have their best interest at heart.
Right.
You're looking at a screen and somebody's programming you on purpose.
Right.
That does not have your best interest at heart.
Right. Yeah, and I know I'm kind of all over the place, but seeing the baby watch the cartoons, because I remember watching cartoons on Saturday mornings, but seeing, I guess, having the continuous access to cartoons primarily was what she was watching. I think she watched one of those Disney films, which is a mess. But it's sort of like when I look at that stuff as an adult, and as an adult with some level of consciousness, I find it really offensive. Like, you know, and you'll point out things to me. But whenever, like a lot of times I find it offensive and it stresses me out because I feel like sometimes there are things that, like, I remember that thing I told you where it was like there's this expression called nigger in a haystack or
you were telling me about that actually.
Right. Well, the expression is like in a stick stack or something, but there's like a reference in some Disney comic or some cartoon, not a Disney comic, but some cartoon where you just see a stack of sticks and then all of a sudden you see a black person and that was it. And it's like without understanding that was a reference to that expression, I wouldn't have really known what the joke was, which it was, but I didn't really understand what was going on. And I get anxious because I feel like there's a lot of programming that goes on that is
subliminal.
That's subliminal, that I don't understand what's going on, that, you know, it's a joke, it's making fun of me, and I don't even know, you know, I wouldn't even know that I was like the butt of the joke, that it was like, ha ha ha, nigger in a haystack. It's not haystack, but whatever it was.
Right.
And that's like
that Porky Pig cartoon.
Was it a Porky Pig cartoon?
Yeah, Porky Pig.
It was an article I was reading, and I shared it with you because of, you know, your area of interest. But, so I think that, especially looking at her and just thinking about the child in me, just absorbing, consuming media images. What am I getting? And what am I getting that I'm consciously aware of? And then I'm like, that's some BS. And what am I getting that I'm not consciously aware of, but is perpetuating this system?
But the question becomes, and I will make this like just so narrow that it's just our granddaughter, but the question becomes, and it's a fair question, why didn't we just turn the TV off?
Well,
I can't remember what was happening at that time.
I think it's a fair question, and I think it's a good conversation because I want to loop back to about maybe 10, when I was with my second husband. His grandson came to visit, and I had gone out and gotten all these board games because I knew that child watched a lot of TV. And at that time, it was like really important to me that he's coming to spend time with us, that we actually spend time and do stuff where it's not just like he's watching TV and we're off doing something. I wanted us, and it was a battle. He was a little bit older. He was about 7 or 8 at that time. And he wanted to watch TV. And that's how your granddaughter was. She wanted to watch TV. Right. And I'd be like, oh, well, let's read. And I would be using all of my this is so, and I could get her for a minute. Right. But I'm not nearly as compelling as I think I am. I'm not nearly as compelling as when she would be watching the show, she was just like, it was just like, she wasn't active. It was just like, she was just like,
but just juxtapose that with when we took our grandson to the historical society. And that was an entirely different experience. You know, he got to see, touch, you know, take images and ask questions about about the mammoth and all these different things. And I thought that was a good and productive trip.
Absolutely. But I feel like you have to make an effort. Like, I feel like when we take a walk at night and you're like, you want to go for a walk? And I'm like, I have to make an effort and I have to make a decision to stop watching whatever I'm watching and get up and go outside. Right. I feel like the momentum is, I feel like you have to make an effort. We could have had him over here and watched a movie and ate pizza.
Right.
There are, like, I feel like we had to make an effort and make a conscious decision to do something different.
Right.
Because, I already said it, the momentum is not there for that.
Right.
And I feel like it's the same for me.
And it's easy.
It's easy.
I mean, face it, it's easy to just turn something on and watch it.
Right.
It takes effort to read a book.
Exactly.
I genuinely used to think of myself as like this big reader, and I'm not. I read. I like to read, but I have to force myself to read more than I thought I did. Now there's some books, there's some books that I'll get hold of and literally can't stop reading them down. Yeah, can't put them down and stop reading them.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah. Brother, what was? Oh, brother. There's this book called the Book of the Dun Cow.
Mm-hmm.
I started that thing and could not put it down until I was finished with it, and then was sorry it was over.
Wow.
Good book.
I remember
the Book of the Dun Cow.
You never heard of it.
Oh, my God. Yeah,
I remember Stephen King. I was reading his Pet Sematary, and I started reading it. Oh, and I couldn't put it down. And it was like the middle of the night. It was 3:00. I was like sitting in my closet with the light on because I was afraid, but I couldn't stop reading. I couldn't go to sleep. And then the last book that I had like that was Room.
Oh.
I went to the library for book club. This was years ago. Mm-hmm. And, the librarian who I told you was always trying to, she's like, oh, well, this book is, it just won a Booker Prize or whatever. And so I ended up taking it and I was just flipping through it. And it was like from page 1. Mm-hmm. Like I think I came home from book club like Wednesday at like 1. And like I finished that book the next day before noon. Like I just read it. Like I couldn't stop reading it.
It was now as far as good books I've read, This Black I went through, and but Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, I had to stick with that book. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that it wasn't good. There was just so much information, and it's the type of book, at least for me, that you read it and you have to process it while you're reading it, because it's just a lot of information, a lot of there's a lot to it.
Yeah. So I don't know if I would necessarily agree, because I feel like some shows are like that for me. Some TV shows I can just binge and watch 20 episodes if I had, and some it's like, woo, I have to absorb and process But I do think that it is much easier. Like, I don't know if reading is an effort because of reading, but it just seems like consuming stories, because I like stories, consuming stories in a movie form, in a series visually, is like I have to make an effort to consume stories in a book. But like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but there's something where it's not that it. I don't know.
I found that I had an easy time with with Frederick Douglass's biography.
Really?
And I had an easy time with Solomon Northup's book. Yeah, 12 Years a Slave.
But Carter G. Woodson.
Yeah, Carter G. Woodson. I had to work with it a little bit, but again, it was because I had to think about it a little bit more as I was reading it.
Yeah. And
there were things that were still relevant. Well, most of it was still relevant, but there were a few things that were no longer really relevant. So I had a little bit of a hard time with that. But you have something like the Underground Railroad that just came out on Amazon, Antebellum.
I said
Antebellum, but Antebellum. And there's like a couple more that I have not seen, and I'm in no hurry to see it. Harriet, I have not seen and got no interest in seeing it. And
I was surprised that we started watching that new Coming to America. We watched about 10 minutes and haven't gone back to it, and I haven't been interested in going back to it.
Right, and I love seeing our people on screen.
I love seeing our people on screen.
But there's some stuff that I don't watch because I'm more inclined to watch something with white people or watch some K-drama or something like that because they have their own kind of propaganda maybe, but it doesn't necessarily pertain to me. But when I'm watching something that's supposed to be speaking to my people, and I know that it has like a poison pill in it or some mess, I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. So like this K-drama that I'm watching now, there is it opened in California, or it was kind of like it started in, or I don't know if it didn't, but anyway, a big part of the beginning was in California, and so I was very sensitive to the images of Black people in that. Like they had this one scene where the main character, she's a girl, she's a teenager, was sitting on the porch, or sitting on a porch in some rough neighborhood in California, and a group of boys came by, and they were like, "Hey, you cute. What's your name?" And she was like, just terrified.
Right.
But there were no black boys in that group, and no one, so I was kind of like, oh, so they're gonna, I was kind of like, are they gonna portray, that these black people make the neighborhood bad and they're aggressive? And someone grabbed her bag and, went through it looking for drugs. And it was a white guy who, he was like the drug head in the thing. There was a black cop who, took her passport because she was associated with the Korean guy who he thought was a criminal. But I was like, particularly, it's sort of like it takes me out of my, I'm just spacing out zone. Right. To where I was like hyper vigilant, like how are the black people portrayed? What's going on? But when I'm just watching most of them, there aren't really any black people. Right, a lot of times they have white people though, in small parts.
Well, they have the one that we're looking at, that Crash Landing on You. They show Switzerland more. Now in them, I don't mind watching them. Is difficult. It's difficult to watch though, because it's like all this stuff is happening to these black people and none of it's good. They're in a house that's haunted or whatever. Plus they're dealing with all these racists and stuff. So I'm like, it's a hard watch, but it's not a watch that I'm not enjoying or having a problem with.
Are we on episode 3 or 4?
I think like episode 4.
Like we've seen episode 4? Or that would be the next one we watch?
I think the next one we watch will be episode 4.
That's what I was thinking. So we haven't seen very much of it.
Yeah, that's not like something like Invincible that I could just sit and sit and binge watch it. I was so sad when that ended. I like me some Invincible, all that violence, but.
And I like romance, so I watch a lot of the one thing that I like about the whole Korean it's a whole Asian market. They're very romantic. A lot of the things that I watch, there are some that aren't the ones that we like. Even this
it's
one,
like this Well, I want to say it's a superficial romance, but at the same time, as with Crash Landing on You, that one actually has some layers to it.
Yeah.
And some depth.
Yeah, a lot of these shows, it's like I know they're romances, and I'll be like, it's episode 20. The couple just made their love confession, which I've learned in this culture, at least the way it's translated is, I like you. It's a love confession, and we joke about that all the time because I'm like, what kind of? Because I was confused when they're like, did they make a love confession? Right. I was like, no. Like she's like, yes, and I'm like, all he said was, I like you, and that's the love confession. Right. But they'll be like into episode 20 before they make the love confession, and then the show might be 40 episodes. So it's not like it's developed. It's like the story is developed, the characters are developed. In a lot of them, I think.
And that's one thing I do like is if you look at Western television and movies, these people meet, they jump in bed, and then they're in love with each other. Whereas on the K-dramas, the one thing that I can hand to them is that it takes time. It's like over a course of time, you can tell that they like each other, or what. And I don't mean like they say it. I mean, you can tell they're attracted to each other, or that they sometimes don't even start out seemingly attracted to each other, but then they grow into it and develop relationships. And I think that's different than Western, where everything's rush. We have to do it in 9 episodes. The
one I just got finished watching, it was 3 women. It was the main character, and they were they slept together, but when they slept together, they just looked into each other's eyes and fell asleep. Right. But it was one character on there. They had been dating for 7 years. One couple, they had been dating for 7 years, and they were actively sexual. I think that's the first time that I've seen that. But hold on, let me tell you more about that. So that couple was actively sexual. She wanted to get married, and he was trying to get his app up and going. Her brother
seemed like he did.
Yeah.
Go anyway. Go.
her brother was actively sexual. He was a newlywed, but they were actually sexual, and they showed that. And then she had one friend who, and the main character, she had never even kissed before. They were 30. She had never even kissed anyone before, been in a relationship or anything. But these were all women who had gone to high school together. So one had been in a pretty sexual relationship for 7 years. She had never kissed. And then her friend, there's another friend who would have one night stands with people. And I've never seen that.
Right. Now, see, that's something I would say. I mean, it's not like I sit and watch a lot of K-dramas, but the ones that I have watched with you, that what you just described seems like the exception
Yes.
to the rule.
But like I don't know if that's because that's what makes it to Netflix. Right. I don't know if it's because I've been watching. I don't know.
Well, of what I've seen, I just kind of like the slower development, and you really, they become friends and so on. They get to know each other first, and so on. As far as as opposed to this United States or Western way, where it just has this highly idealized. You just meet somebody and jump in bed with them, and then you're in love with them.
Right.
Business. What is that?
Right.
So,
I mean, at least
I think it's all propaganda. That's what I'm just trying to say is that it's like everything we watch is a bunch of programming and propaganda.
Right. And I actually think just like I don't believe that newscasters are neutral. I don't believe that art is neutral. I don't believe that anything is neutral. I feel that especially a work of art is coming from a perspective and is telling a story and it's advancing ideas or exploring ideals. And so I think that whatever you watch, whatever you consume, there is a message there that you're consuming while you're consuming it.
Right. I agree. But the question becomes, though, just like with art, you'll have an artist that will make a piece that's maybe abstract. And what they're inviting people to do is look at it, and whatever they see is what they see.
Maybe. Or it might look abstract to you, and to them it might be the ocean. But it just doesn't look like a realistic portrayal of the ocean like a photograph.
Well, that's my point, though, is that I'm saying that I have spoken with artists and seen artists interview at galleries and stuff, and they'll have something abstract, and they'll ask, what's this supposed to represent? And they will say, what does it represent to you? This is the artist talking. Mm-hmm. What does it represent to you?
That's what I said.
And then the person will say, it looks like whatever. And they'll say, then that's what it is.
Right. I'm just saying sometimes it's that and sometimes it's not that.
Right. Well, I'm not disagreeing with you. All I'm saying is that when it comes to art, there's a difference between that and when someone is trying to propagandize you or trying to, on purpose to lean you a certain way, as opposed to, you see it and that's what you see.
Yeah, I feel like, I think that propagandize, it sounds like I feel like everything that is created, there's an intention, there's a vibration, there's a message, whether the people are conscious of it or not.
Yeah, that's where you and I have a split there, because I know that I create things. I'm an artist, and I don't always. I'll put it like this: I know that I can create something because I've done it before that didn't necessarily come from a point of view, except that I was trying to make something, and whatever the person sees is what they see. But maybe I'm the only one.
Yeah, I see. What I still stand by. I feel like whether it's conscious or not conscious, who we are and what our values are show up in our work and what we produce in the world. So that's all I'm saying. Okay, and I stand by that. I mean, it's not really...
like I said, this is turning into one of those cases where we're in a disagreement, but I don't necessarily disagree with you. I don't think that's.
What kind of disagreement is that, babe?
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Is I don't think that what you're saying is wrong or untrue, but I just think that there's a nuance to the way that I feel about it.
Okay. Fair enough. So you consume a lot of. What would you say you consume a lot of in terms
bacon.
of media? You said bacon.
I said bacon. No, I don't consume any
joke.
bacon. I don't eat bacon. I look at news and commentary more, but I don't watch mainstream news. And if I do look at some mainstream news, it's just to juxtapose it against what I think is the truth. Because my jump point is always that whatever I'm seeing in mainstream news is a lie. As soon as I see it, it's a lie. I could be wrong, but you'll have to prove me wrong. If mainstream media is saying it, then I just automatically is a lie.
So I see you consuming news and commentary. I also see you consuming like comic strips, the superhero stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of and
horror. And depressing stuff.
Yeah, well, see, that's define depressing. It doesn't depress me.
You're like, yeah, it doesn't depress me. Boy, I don't know if depressing. Maybe that's like not the right word.
All right.
But like my favorite movie is the movie where the Earth is going to end, and it doesn't.
That's not depressing to me.
And it doesn't get. There's no redemption.
Right. That's not depressing to me.
Right. So maybe it's just like I don't really know what the proper term is. That makes you happy that the Earth is going to end. Because you say
it based upon the way that people are. Yeah, I don't have a big issue with it.
Is that why you like it? Because you're like, yay, the Earth is going to end. I love this movie.
No, if human beings could be wiped out without the Earth ending, the Earth wouldn't have to end.
You just want human beings to be wiped out.
Yeah, human beings wiped out.
That sounds very disturbing to me.
Yeah, that's hey. When I see the way, and that's nuanced, and I'm being kind of over the top with it, but I don't like the way that people treat each other. I don't like the evil. I don't like the not caring about each other. I don't like the war and the treating people like crap, and I'm not with that. And
so I would advance that the media that you consume, although the superhero thing is, there's some redemption and some savior, but I would argue that the media that you consume contributes to your perspective of the way that people treat each other.
It might contribute to it, but actually, my view of people comes from dealing with people, because I know the difference between car chase on television and somebody shooting a machine gun, and you have 20 people shooting a machine gun at them, and they have like a handgun, and they're managing to hit everybody, and the people with the machine guns can't hit them or her. I know the difference between that and real life. So I know that, I'm not like, well, I see this happening on television, or I see people commenting about this, but in real life, I see people treating people like dirt.
In my real life, I haven't experienced a lot, so I feel like
I have.
So do you feel like your siblings treat you and people like dirt?
I'm not talking about that, because the thing is, I know that I'm not a piece of crap. I know you're not a piece of crap. I know my mom wasn't a piece of crap. I know my sisters and brothers aren't a piece of crap, and so on. I don't mean that like every single individual on the planet. I'm just saying that from what I have seen in real life, and having dealt with people,
it seems like then the people you're dealing with and the people you're choosing to focus on maybe is skewing your perspective of people in general.
That's possible, but I don't think so, because after dealing with that, and also then taking it a step further and seeing what's going on in the world, and with people bombing each other and doing these things to each other and so on.
Most people don't have bombs. I don't know how to bomb anybody or make a bomb. Who knows how to make a bomb?
This isn't going to get solved in this short of time. I'm just telling you how I feel about it.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if anybody's going to dissuade me from it. All I'm saying is, like, if I didn't have hope in people, I wouldn't be up here talking. I wouldn't do a lot of the things that I do if I didn't have any hope in people. But I just mean in general, overall, I think human beings are pretty crappy.
I think the reason that I wanted to talk about it in this context is because the conversation overall to me is sort of about media and how it impacts us. And do we need to guard against it? Should we just relax and enjoy it for what it is? What impact does it have on us as Black people, as just humans? And so I actually feel that what I consume has a big, like physically, the food you eat, I feel like everything that you put into you has an effect on, how you feel and what you experience. So I feel like if you eat a lot of shitty food, then you're like, yeah, the body breaks down, the body has problems, the body this. And I think that there is an aspect of truth to that. But I think that your experience of that truth is going to be impacted by what you're putting into your physical body. And I think the same thing with the media that you consume, that one consumes, not you specifically necessarily.
True story. There were these people in Oklahoma, and they got hit by a tornado, and something had happened that this.
Is this an anecdote, baby?
Yeah, but it's a true story. But
which is anecdotal. Okay.
But the tornado, when they talked to some of the survivors, because it was a bad one, and a lot of people died, and they said that some of them died and didn't have to because they didn't get any warning that this tornado was coming. And it was because the television station wasn't able to broadcast it for whatever reason. And so a lot of people got caught off guard. They were in their homes or whatever. They might have recognized a storm was coming, but they didn't know a tornado was coming to hit them.
They didn't know the extent, or that they should take cover, or whatever.
The point that I'm getting at is they didn't see it, they didn't watch it, but that tornado still hit their asses.
So you're saying you have to watch this negative stuff so
what I'm
that
saying,
you don't
no,
get
I'm not
taken
saying
off
that.
guard?
But I'm just saying that not watching it doesn't change it. Doesn't change the fact.
And I think the same thing about not watching, positive, upbeat thing. I don't know.
That's the thing. It's not. That's the thing. I'm not sitting around like everything I watch is this downer, and everything that I watch is. That's not true. But at the same time, not watching anything about this tornado didn't change the fact that tornado was there and that it hit them, and that some people died behind it.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm not saying yeah, that's true. But 360 however many years, you could have been watching the news, like, I need to watch the news in case a tornado comes because I don't want to be caught off guard, and be depressed all day every day watching the news just because of that tornado that's going to come once. I mean, that tornado is going to come.
That's not true.
That tornado is going to come whether you watch it or not. Yeah, but like the rest of your life comes whether you know about that tornado or not.
Yeah, but when we're getting ready to take a walk, what is the first thing you ask me?
What's the weather like?
What's the weather like? Well, no, let's just walk out there in the middle of it naked.
Those are not the only options, baby. That's why, because you never give me a satisfactory answer. I have to open the door to check. I don't just be like, okay, I'll just walk outside naked.
all I'm saying is that for just in that time period, it's not like you sit all day looking at the weather with your eyes glued to the weather to see what. If you want to know what the weather's going to be, you take a minute and look at what the weather is.
Well, I think that there are habits. So I feel like, for me, let me talk about me. When I was in the habit of consuming, for me, a lot of news, I found it to be I did. At some point, I realized I'm stressed out and I'm distressed by this, and it's impacting my ability to relate and connect with other people. Because I was starting to feel like, on some level, like everyone is out to rape me, rob from me, steal from me, and harm me in some way. And they're just going to look like normal people. And, it was not healthy for me. Now, it might be healthy for someone else, but I think that because of my own personal experience and, I feel like the quality of my life and the quality of my relationships with people and my ability to see people and see the good in people shifted when I stopped consuming news in the way that I had consumed it at one point. And also just the way that I felt in the world. I think my level of anxiety went down. And, you know, the news, for example, they have, you know, that concept, if it bleeds, it leads. They understand that, you know, they're not here to promote certain things because promoting certain things is not conducive to them making money. Right. What's conducive to them making money, and a lot of times you see this in capitalism, what's conducive to money making or what tastes good, like, you know, all kinds of processed foods taste really good, but they're not necessarily good for you. So I feel like what's conducive to making money, it may not be good. I know from my perspective, it's certainly not good for me.
Well, I don't know if you have to remember me having told you this, but a couple years ago,
something from a couple years ago?
No, I told you about a couple years ago when I went for that 1 month when I could have just literally dropped dead at any moment. At any moment, I could have just dropped dead. I had like this medication pumping directly into my heart 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So you were like hyper-conscious, because we could all just drop dead at any moment.
But the chance, I mean...
The chances for you were really, really high.
Yeah, the chances of... I'm talking about like just a normal person isn't going to just like drop dead. They can, but...
It's not... That's true.
In my situation, I literally could just drop dead, or I could have gone to sleep and not woke up. But I don't know if you remember me telling you, that was one of the most peaceful months I ever had in my life.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
And it was because I knew what I was dealing with. That's the thing. You and I have like a different personality in that way.
But you think I want to bury my head in the sand?
No, I don't think you want to bury your head in the sand. I think that we have a different personality type. I'm the type that I need to know what's going on around me. And the more I know what's going on around me, the more peace I make with it. Because, you know, a lot of people will run from information, or they won't go to a doctor to get a diagnosis because they're scared of what they're going to find. Shoot, I want to know what's going on. And then once I know what's going on, then I can deal with it.
Yeah, I think I have some aspect of wanting to bury my head in the sand, but I think in terms of news and stuff, one thing I realize is that if something is really important, God, the universe, has many ways of getting it to me. So people will be like, did you hear the story about so-and-so? And then I'll know. But I don't need to.
Who do you think sent the boat?
God.
Right. In other words,
God is like, you better tune into the news.
If you watch, yeah, but I'm not saying, I don't think that's necessarily true.
You didn't let me.
But, go ahead. I apologize.
That's okay. So I kind of feel like, you know, if I need it, it'll be there for me. And so far that has worked out really, really well for me. You know, I guess maybe just relying on other people's, you know, focus on the news and stuff like that. It was something else I was going to say, but then you started talking about the boat, so it might come back.
Okay. Well, that's the thing. What you might perceive as me, you know, with this laser focus on the news, I watch a lot of different stuff from a lot of different places, and then I research stuff, you know, on my own. And that's, to me, that's how I can get to the truth, because I don't trust what anybody says out of hand. So.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I think I'm a person, and you hear me say it all the time, like, I get the concept. It's sort of like, I'm not, like, if I read a lot of times, I just, like, it's like, once I get the concept, like, I remember when I was in college, for example, and I used to go to this lecture series. I think it was called, like, the Third World, First World, something. But I used to go to this lecture series, and then at some point I was like, okay, so the short version of the story is that Black people have a rich history and are not evil, dumb, useless pieces of shit. And white people have been out here, you know, terrorizing and causing all kinds of hell and are not these wonderful savior angels. Right. So it's kind of like, I kind of got the concept. After that, I would kind of like go to a couple of talks, and it always seemed like it was like more or less like the same, like the underlying story is kind of like, okay, I get the concept. So I don't really need to go anymore. Right. You know, once, like, you know, it's like with some stuff, once I get the concept, I don't need to like keep going over it. Well,
neither do I.
I'm not saying that you do.
And what I'm saying is, you don't really see me watching a lot of stuff about black people getting gunned down or this. As a matter of fact, when it happens, I'm like, yeah, I got the concept. And because I'm like, just like you said, I already know the story. And I already know what's going on.
More or less.
The type of stuff the type of stuff I'm looking at is like what's happening with the financial system, what's happening with crypto, what's happening with travel, what's happening with trying to have vaccine passports and all that. That's the type of stuff that I pay attention to because there's this way that they have of like bringing stuff in on you slowly, and then next thing you know, you're in it and you're like, what happened? Mm-hmm. And I like to know what's going on so that I can see when something's trending a certain way or when there's a pattern evolving or whatever. But as far as like gender war stuff and oppression porn and stuff, I don't watch that. Mm-hmm. Because it's not useful. I'm like, okay, yeah, I already, yeah.
I got the concept.
I got the concept.
Yeah. So, but then on the other hand, I can watch like a romantic comedy movie, mm-hmm. or read a romance book, or watch these series now, mm-hmm. and it's like I know what's gonna happen. It's a formula,
right? And
I get the concept there, but I guess because that's just something I just really really enjoy. I can vibe with that, and I don't. But some of the other stuff, I guess, because of the way it doesn't make me feel good. Love, and the idea of love and relationships makes me feel good. But some of this other stuff, it is demoralizing. It's depressing.
Right.
It's upsetting. It makes me feel like I can't do anything. It makes me feel trapped. And so I just really try to stay the hell away from that shit as much as possible. Excuse my language.
My whole thing is, especially when it comes to shows that are supposed to be for us, mm-hmm. I just don't like the feeling of when as soon as I start watching it, I'm like, I can't even enjoy this because I'm watching so hard for mm-hmm. what they're trying to, how they're trying to program me. Because I know that they are.
Because I know that they are. Mm-hmm.
You can't. I can't remember what show it was, but we were watching it. I said, you see how they tried to slip that in, mm-hmm. and they're always trying.
Even with shows that aren't for us, because I remember you talking about, the black man was in the apron, and show we were watching, and the black woman was a lesbian, cartoon. And that was not for us explicitly. But
I definitely, saw through. Or we was watching the one where the guy went into the computer simulation, and
I don't remember that one.
Well, he died and he had his consciousness put into a computer and so on. And
was it Black Mirror a long time ago?
No. This one's a series. And then the first thing they got to show us his neighbors, and the black guy's gay. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm good. And it didn't even make it past one episode.
Right.
I'm like, dude, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. So, I don't know in terms of, I definitely feel like my anxiety is really, really high these days. And so mm-hmm. I'm spending a lot of time just escaping. The mm-hmm. media is escapism for me. And I've gone through almost everything Nollywood. Anytime anything Nollywood pops up on that feed, I look for it. And mm-hmm. I have a couple of feeds from, the library. And I look for stuff, from other places. And watch stuff from other places. But, my main sources, I guess I'm just like really into the Asian, the Korean, Taiwanese, Singaporean, mm-hmm. But mostly K stuff for some reason. But I think it's just the drama, the romance and the drama.
Right. And see, that's, different people are different.
Yeah.
I like my action.
Yeah.
You like your romances. Never
that's
twain shall meet. You're the first person I ever met that doesn't like fight scenes and car chases.
I can't. They just so boring to me. It's hard for me to pay attention. And I used to try to follow a fight scene to be like who's on top. But it's now I don't even try to follow because it's at the end of the scene, you'll know who won or who lost. And I don't enjoy watching the punching and the shooting and all of that.
Yeah, see, I'm all down for that.
Yeah. So I don't know, in terms of Drapetomaniac and Black people, I feel like there is something to be said, at least for me, with having some downtime. As a Black person, I feel like, there's a constant undercurrent of, trying to understand what the hell is going on. How did we get in this situation? How do we get out? How do we get free? That's like, that program seems like it's running just all the time. And sometimes it's actively running, sometimes it's not actively running, but it's like, there's always an undercurrent of that. And so I don't know, I definitely am consciously working on, even like this book I have that I was reading, I've kind of stopped because like, I'm just doing more yoga and more tarot reading. Because it's like, it stresses me out. Like I just... So I don't know if the escapism, I was just trying to say, I don't know if it's healthy or not healthy. I don't know if I'm escaping to a world where I'm being, propagandized in a different way. And, it just feels a way that feels better to me. But, yeah.
When I want to unwind, I just watch like collection videos or old cartoons from the 60s, old Marvel cartoons from the 60s, whatever. But for the most part, I don't feel a way when I'm getting information. Information is very helpful to me.
Yeah, but see, even like those cartoons and stuff, like I notice when I watch them with you, I'm like all of the white people, it's almost all white people, but they all have blue and green and light colored eyes. And I even went and Googled the percentages because I'm like, somebody is actively drawing. So it's like, even when I'm watching that, I personally, it doesn't harken back to a happy time to me. And like, I'm watching it and I'm like, what are they trying to say? I don't understand. It's like, so I don't enjoy that.
With some movies, some movies and television shows, I really have just gotten to this place where I have to suspend disbelief. Just meaning, if I'm watching, say, the Justice League, and I just will not suspend disbelief enough to say that a human being can fly, then I can't enjoy the movie. I can't watch it.
So I have to suspend disbelief that like most white people's eyes are blue.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to enjoy the movie, and I'm not even saying that that's a fair or right thing to have to do, but that's what I do. Like when I'm watching, especially when I'm watching stuff from back in the day, I'm like, I'm not going to see any black folks, and if I do, they're not going to be portrayed any good. So I just accept that before I even watch it, and then I watch it. I watch something like the original Outer Limits, and they actually presented black people as just people, which was very surprising to me. But anyway, that's
that's that. What time is that? Are we finished?
I think that we are.
I don't know if this was a productive conversation. But...
Well, I don't know if everything has to be like all productive. I enjoy conversing with you. I enjoy the exchange of ideas.
You like to conversate?
Yeah, I like to conversate. But I like the exchange of ideas, and I think that it's helpful for two people to talk. We're married, but I think you could be like married 20 years and 30 years and get to talking, and then you start finding out more and more about each other.
Definitely.
So,
and I feel like when I talk, I find out things about myself sometimes because I process things verbally. So if I'm not talking about it, a lot of times I don't even know what I think or how I feel.
I'll be like processing about my feelings about human beings, long after this is over with. But I always have been, but especially now.
All right.
So anyway, we don't know if you out there listening got anything out of this. I know I did.
Well, I have questions like, what do you like to watch? What are your thoughts about this subject? Can we just chill and watch and not, can't I just enjoy? Can't I just enjoy a show, or do I always have to be on
guard?
Huh?
It's on guard.
Right. And I kind of feel like I'm always, as much as I like, as a black person, like I always am on guard more or less.
Right.
So
that's about it. We thank you for listening. Will you have something else? Oh, thank you for listening to this edition of the Drapetomaniac Podcast. This is Ayapo Yapa, the HDIC. That is the head Drapetomaniac in charge, with my lovely wife, Angela.
hello. I was speaking out of turn, huh?
No.
I thought you said the HDIC at the beginning. But you said at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, I always say
in case people forget.
Right.
It's like station identification at the top of the hour.
Right.
All right.
Wishing you peace and blessings, safety, sanity, and security through separation. I say the same thing every week. And until next week at the same time,
we out!
We will see. She always has to make sure she peeks at least once during the conversation. Until next time, we will see you on the run.
And thank you again for listening to the Drapetomaniac Podcast. Tune in next week at doiamedia.com. DOIAMEDIA.com. And again, we'll catch you on the run. Peace.